Welcome to the Buds and Reality Show. I'm Sean Collins, the guy with a lot to say, and I'm here with a cool guest of mine, Mr. Will Huff. We go way back, man. How you doing, brother?
I'm all right. Yeah, we do go way back. I don't know if you can see this scar right here, but that on my nose is from you. Do you remember?
I do not remember. Let's talk about this.
I think it was 10th grade. You tried a full court basketball shot. The
Oh,
ball missed the rim, hit me in my face, hit my glasses, cut my nose, gave me a concussion, and I missed the week of football.
I really don't remember that. I'm so sorry.
So I have this scar. And so I always think of you, and every time I look in the mirror, you know. So I'm like, oh, Sean, good
Damn,
times.
Sean. Wow, but that's just to give a little history on us. That's how long we go back as high school era.
That must have been 1995, I think, because
Something
it
like
was
that.
my sophomore year of football. So
Oh, geez.
telling the coach I missed football, I was like, why do you got a concussion? Did you get it in the game? I was like, nah, I got hit in the head with a basketball.
Whoops, my bad. Holy smokes, man. I do not remember that though. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Ramsey's class or we were just in the gym, man. Yeah, you launched it full court. I don't even think we were in the same class. You were just launching a full court shot.
Yeah, I'm not a basketball player. I never I did try out in high school. I went to one practice and that was way too much running for me. I was like, absolutely not. I'm not doing it. And I played football with you for a minute.
Yeah.
Except I never wanted to go to practice.
See, I always went to practice. I never wanted to practice. And then like all of freshman year, I always had an excuse for the coach. Oh, I hurt my ankle. I hurt this. I didn't want to do that. And then he's like, I almost felt like he was like, why are you on this team? But they didn't cut players. You remember? So everybody got to stay on the team. They never cut. Sophomore year, I was at practice and I'm running with people and I'm like, running sucks. Why am I here? And then it kind of clicked to me. It's like, if I'm not going to go all the way out, why am I here? And so then I was like, you know what? I'm going all the way out. And so that practice, something clicked in my head and I just started blowing up people. Like I was on the defensive line. They double team me. I'd split the double team, make the tackle in practice. I started winning the sprints. And the coaches, I see them looking at each other like, was he just cloned or something? Did he just become a whole new person? But it clicked in me that if you do the things the right way, you're going to get success out of it. And so I was like, I'm just going to go all out. Why make excuses and be here? Like just to be here. And so that week I became a starter on the sophomore team. Like I went from way down the bench where I only got in if it was a blowout to the starter in 3 days. Once it turned on to me, like I'm just going to go all the way out in practice instead of just coasting through it and trying to avoid the practice. And after that, I was a player.
So what you're saying is you actually have to put the work in if you want to make something work.
You do. You can't just go through life. Like I equate it to like when I used to work, like, let's just say McDonald's or one of those kind of jobs. I would show up, I would do the bare minimum, and I'd go home. I didn't want to do anything else. But then once you realize if you want to be a manager, you want to move up, you got to constantly go at it like it's the game, like it counts, like it matters. So like I always like the phrase, you got to practice how you would play. Because if you practice hard, and you're going to play even harder. And so if you put in the work ahead of time, you can reap the benefits later.
That's right. That is absolutely right.
So,
now, we haven't actually seen each other like in person since way back when.
Probably 22 years, 20 years.
Something like that. It's been a long time.
Yeah, we were on Livingston Road, I think, the last time I saw you.
Oh,
you and my brother had a little meeting of the minds. Do you remember that?
No, but
come on, man. How much have you smoked since then?
Oh, there's been a lot of smoking since then. I was such a bad kid back then. I feel bad for a lot of things that I did.
I feel bad for Tara's mom for putting up with us for all the time.
Oh my God, that poor woman put up with so much shit. She was such
Peony, we apologize. We love you.
And she, you know what? Still to this day, I remember her cooking.
Oh yeah.
Oh, her cooking. Wow. She was one of the best cooks ever. You know, I'm spoiled at home now. My wife's an amazing cook, but
Yeah.
before that, like, you know, Deb was the best cook ever until
That's
then,
it.
you know.
Yeah, shout out to Megan now. You gotta give her the props now.
Oh yeah, shout out to Mrs. Buds. I mean, she does everything, especially
Yeah.
lately when I've been down and sick or whatever. I'm glad I'm getting able
Mm-hmm.
to get back to it and whatnot. But dude, like, you know, through social media, we've been able to keep in contact or whatever.
Yeah.
And you are a man that is very well traveled. I will say that. You're always going somewhere or doing something.
Can't
And
sit still, man. It's like football practice. If I just sit still, or what's the point of being here?
that's right. But like you've been up to like a lot of cool shit. You've been up to,
I
you
do all
know,
kinds of stuff.
you do all kinds of stuff. And, you know, one of the first things I want to bring up, you know, since, you know, it's been so long, is that you were actually, and I don't know if you still are, but you were teaching a college class.
I was a college instructor from 2015 to 2020 or 2014. Yeah, to 2020. So I taught at Arkansas State University and Florida Atlantic University, both Division I colleges. So they're pretty decent size. So
Okay.
I was blessed, man.
Were you were teaching English, weren't you?
I have a master's degree in teaching English to speakers of other languages. So when people come from another country and they get here, one of the things that could hold them back is the English language. And so I help them reach their goals with language so they can communicate, get the job they want, the career they want. And what's cool about it is I made friends from all over the world now. So if I want to show up to Japan, I got people in Japan. If I want to go to India, I got people in India, Nepal, Mexico, Nicaragua, Colombia, wherever I want to go, I got people. So a large group is Peru. I got tons of friends in Peru. But see, I taught them when they were 16 or 17. That's been like 5 or 6 years. So now they're in their 20s. So now they're people I can hit up. They're like, hey, I'm coming down there. You guys got to show me the spot.
Oh, nice. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
How hard is it? Because there's so many people that'll say the English language is the hardest language to learn. Is it really hard to teach?
It's hard to teach in the sense of when somebody asks you why do you say it this way and not that way? That's when it becomes difficult, So why can't you say I have eat the pizza? And now you got to try to explain why it's eaten and not eat. And I mean, it just goes like,
Okay.
and so that's where it gets difficult. Spelling is horrible because we have a mixture of French, German, Italian, Latin, Greek, all that into our spelling. So our spelling makes no sense to like if you ever learn another language, it's almost all phonetic. You pronounce every letter. I was just talking yesterday about like German. You pronounce every letter in German. So in Arkansas, there's a city they call Stuttgart.
Okay.
But it's the exact same spelling as the German city Stuttgart. But you have to say all the letters. You can't glide at the end. And teaching them to hear and understand Americans talking is the hardest part.
Did they ever try to like get you to teach them the bad words first?
Oh, I include the bad words in my lessons. It's college. And so I'm going to say, if you hear this, this, and this is what it means. But, one of the things people don't ever teach English people are things you really need to know. Like for women, every month they have a period. And every month they need tampons or pads or things like that, or Pamprin, Midol. I teach them like this is the things you do at the store to go ask for these things, or the doctor to tell them you have diarrhea. This is what diarrhea. And so they'll giggle and laugh, but they're taking notes because this is stuff you really need to know. I don't need to really know how to say the blue light has been on for 6 hours. Like, okay, that's a pointless English sentence. You want to go to the doctor and say, dude, my stomach hurts. I have diarrhea. So my students always appreciated that. Like we just had running jokes constantly about peeing in the shower, all kinds of stuff. like just because it would get in their heads, and then they can use it. Because if you can make it memorable, then they can reuse it. And that was always my goal as a teacher, to make things that people could leave the class and actually use, and not like just rote memorization of words on a page, because it means nothing.
Right,
So,
right.
but I would teach bad words if they asked me, and it would be more private because I wouldn't want to offend. Like, I could have Muslims, Jewish people, Hindu people,
Right.
Christians, Catholic, all these things in my class. So if somebody wanted something, I'd kind of keep it to not everybody. Like, okay, I'll tell you, you come here and I'll let you know. Not the
All
kids
right,
though.
man. You weren't
Not the
just
kids.
like in class saying, hey, if this person says this, you tell them to go fuck themselves or
Yeah,
anything.
suck my cock. So, but yeah, so I would let them know, like, yeah, if you hear this, someone used a negative Hispanic term to one of my Colombian students, and they didn't know what it meant.
Oof.
So in the middle of class, they're like, "What does this mean?" And I'm like, "I'll talk to you a
Ooh.
little later about it, but that's not good,
Yeah, you don't
Like,
want to say that. Yikes.
but another thing that our media in America does is with Black people. Black people are always portrayed a certain way. And so I get my students who come from other countries and they look at Black people. For one, they think they can use the N word. And so you
Oh,
have people from like
no.
Japan, Mexico, Brazil, they use the N word because they think that's just common how you talk to each other because they see it. They've never seen the aspect of somebody getting punched for it. They just
You
see
got to
people
tell them to
using it.
walk that shit back so they don't end up
Yeah, like
messed up.
I was like, that's not a word. They're like, no, everyone says it. But then they also think Black people are all thugs and drug dealers and criminals. So our media plays a big role in other countries of how they perceive things here. So, but I try to always with my students walk that line of these are things you actually need to know, plus what the books are trying to get me to teach them. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. That's
but I taught English in Korea. I taught kids in Korea. That was fun.
you went to
That's
Korea.
actually Yeah, I lived in Korea. That's actually when I decided to go get my master's degree. I
Okay.
was like, this is fun, but with the master's degree, I can make a little more Skrilla. And
Oh yeah.
so and so I came back, got the master's degree. But it was fun in Korea because I had kids from 6 to 18. And so I like get to see all the progression like in different levels. But I had kids that would come in at like 5, 6 years old, no English. And within like 3 months, they're tattling on people in English to me.
Oh geez.
And I'm like, man, I was like, I wish I could just grab language like that. But kids are
That
amazing.
make you feel good that you hear them catching on and stuff too.
Yeah.
Like they're actually learning from
I was
you.
like, oh, I did something right because my degree was in marketing and public relations. And
Oh
I went
wow.
to and I went to teach English. And I was like, I had no training in teaching English. All I knew is I studied German and I studied Spanish and I hated going to this class. And I never learned anything. And I was like, why did I hate going to class and why did I not learn anything? So I took those two things and I said, I'm going to do the opposite of that in all of my classes. And then it became my own style of teaching that people like watching my class. They were like, where in the world did you learn this? What book is this from? I'm like, this is the book of Willigus.
I love
Like,
it, man. I love it.
yeah, I actually taught teachers one semester. So English teachers from Mexico came, they were in my classes. And so I was teaching English teachers and like and so they, by the end of the session, they're like, I'm never teaching the same way again. They're like, what you did in class here with us was just awesome. And so I still get calls every once in a while. They're like, remember we did this in class? I still do this with my students. And that's been like 8 years ago. And so, I mean, it was really cool.
That is
So,
cool. It sounds like a kind of a fulfilling job, really.
yeah, it is because, I don't know if you know what your why is in life, like what you are here for, why you wake up in the morning to breathe. But for me, it's to help other people reach their goals. And when an immigrant comes to the United States, they're a blank slate ready to go for goals because the American dream is alive here if you put in the hustle and the grind. And so these people are coming hungry. And so for me, it's like I give them that tool of English and they're going to eat.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. And
Yeah.
especially, in today's, world where, you know, people coming from other countries aren't looked upon the best, depending on what side of the aisle you're on. So I think it's great. There's people like you that are willing to teach them the ways and not, feel any type of way about them coming here, to try to make better for themselves. I
Yeah.
think that's great.
You know, we need a whole country of people that work like immigrants. We don't have that right now.
Amen to that.
So,
I agree.
Like, so, well, let's talk about the political aisles, though. What's funny about it is the right dislike the illegal immigration, people who didn't go through the process, they didn't file for visas, didn't do all that. And there are tons of reasons why people don't, because it costs a ton of money and it takes a ton of time. That's one. And so it's limited on who can come here, but they don't like that aspect. But almost a ton of Republicans I know are married to immigrants. So, I mean, it's funny. So there's this perception that Republicans hate immigrants. It's like, no, Republicans like the law. And so they like the law of borders. And I heard once somebody, I think it was Colonel Conrad Reynolds, who I helped run Congress run. He said, a nation and a country stays together based on having culture and language and similar experiences. If culture, language, and similar experiences are splintered, you lose the country. And so when people are coming in, you lose that. That's one of the reasons they talk about it. Though we do let in 1 million legally per year also. So it's just something people got to deal with. But on the left, they have a superiority complex over immigrants. They're the savior. And so they don't realize how racist they are when they say we need Mexicans or Nicaraguans or El Salvadorians to clean our bathrooms, to do our gardening, to pick our vegetables.
And they say shit like that too.
They do it. They say it out loud, and they
all
don't
the time
realize how racist it is. That's the only thing you see these guys is good for, is doing our menial work.
Yeah, we need people to cook our food and do our landscaping. Like what? They can't be business people or something? Like
no,
what the hell?
They can't be doctors. Like I had a student, and she was a surgeon from Venezuela. She was a surgeon, or an award-winning surgeon. She came here to learn English, but people would look at her and probably be like, "Oh yeah, she's going to work at the hotel." Like, it's like, you guys are racist. You don't realize it. It's the same with their perception of Black people. Black people are so helpless. On the left, they're like, we have to come in and be their savior, their white savior. They don't know how to get driver's licenses or IDs or do anything on their own. And it's just, they don't realize the racist mentality of that. And then you get people on the right that group all Black people with the Bloods and the Crips.
Well, the media doesn't help though, and you brought it up though, like the way they portray, anybody from any culture, it's always, think about how they portrayed Asian people in movies and such for years and years.
But and our issue is also with media is the sensationalism. They take the most sensational aspect and amplify it, and it makes people believe that's the norm. And that's what media does. So you see tornado videos tearing up a trailer park. How often has your house been hit by a tornado?
Right.
But they make it think like, man, that's going to be possible tomorrow. Like,
it's going to happen once a week or whatever it may be, but that's, I hate the media for a number of reasons, especially mainstream media. There's only a few people out there that are doing true journalism now. James O'Keefe is one of them from Project Veritas, one of my favorite places to get information from, just because I feel like he's doing actual journalism. Now, moving on, you actually have some other ventures out there that I want to talk about. And one of them is, if I'm saying this correctly, Yoenzo.
Yes.
Yoenzo.
So it started with Your Entertainment Source. So it's the first two letters of Your Entertainment Source, Yoenzo.
Okay.
So because for about 10 years, I was helping underground musicians develop like their marketing and getting known in public relations, but I never got paid for it. I did it because I like helping people reach their goals. And so I did that. And then I was coming up with a company name, and I was like, I can take that, put it together. It sounds good in any language. And then I can see what kind of media empire I can develop over the next 15 to 20 years.
That's pretty awesome. Now, I see you doing a lot of photography stuff with it, but you're not just doing photography with it.
Yeah. So I do photography, and I put my logo on my pictures because I want my name to be in people's brains. So when something pops up in the future and they say, "Oh, I know that," and so that's my long-term goal. But photography became my COVID skill. So when COVID hit, you're locked down, and I was like, what can I do? And then Trump and Biden started sending out stimmies like no other. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy me a lens. I don't know if you can see it here. I got my lens. I was like, I'm gonna get a lens.
Oh, that's the real deal right there.
Yeah, I got my camera, and I was like, you know what? That stimmy is gonna go into my business because we do marketing aspects of it. And so I upgraded my camera. And then I just went to work on the skill. YouTube videos about 6 hours a day. When I was done with that, went out and just shot whatever I could. And then come home and practice editing. And then so it became like my job was to learn photography. But we do real estate photography. My wife is the best though. Gracie, she does drone. And so she got her drone license and she does all nice. That. Yeah, and she's graphic designer. She makes commercials. She made like 7 or 8 political commercials this season for different people that were on TV all over the country in different races. And she does radio and all that. So she's the brains behind the operation. She's the skill. So, but I do a lot of mine is consulting. That's what I do. So I do the photography is kind of bring attention to what I'm doing. And then I go, and that's why I'm actually in Arkansas. I don't know if you can see, I'm living in someone's storage room right now.
Oh, wow.
because we're working on a mission here in Arkansas. And so that's why I'm here. I'm adding a consulting aspect to that. And I'm a very personable guy. I think that's my skill is I can make anyone my friend. And that's very useful for what we're doing down here in Arkansas.
That's awesome. Now, when I brought up your photography stuff, ladies and gentlemen, we got to talk about what he's taking pictures of because
man, it's serious.
You're crazy.
Stuff,
You're crazy. This guy is out here. Mr. Huff is out here taking pictures up close and personal with alligators in the forest of Florida.
Oh yeah,
up close and personal with the gators and the snakes in the forest in Florida. What is wrong with you? Or not what is wrong with you, but like, holy shit, that is, I'm not playing with no gators and snakes. That's for damn sure.
But you know what? You know how people have that mindset about pit bulls, where they just look at them and instantly think, man, that's dangerous. That's going to attack me. That's going to come after me. Like, that's what my gators are like. They're like skittish dogs. They want nothing to do with me at all. And so they're always propped up and ready to jump in the water. And so once you start recognizing what they're doing and which direction they're pointing themselves, and that you can say, okay, they're ready to escape and they don't want anything to do with me. And what I've learned on alligator behavior, as long as you don't get between them and their safe place, which is the deep end of the water, you're good. They want nothing to do with you. They'll come out of the water to you if they think, like, if they've been fed by humans before, which never feed an alligator because they get used to people. They want to come to people. And what happens is people who don't know alligators, they get scared because the alligator came towards them. But really, they've just been fed by people and they think there's food coming. So that puts the alligator in danger because people get scared. Oh my God, he's coming near me. He wants to eat me. So, but no, I love the alligators. I love the snakes. And just if you're messing with snakes, just make sure you know which ones are venomous and which ones aren't.
Well, I mean, you got a ton of them down there in the FLA, man. I mean, Florida's got all kinds of shit that wants to kill you and eat you.
Oh man, it's fun. So no, there's some rattlesnakes and some cottonmouths and coral snakes, but there's not a ton of venomous snakes down there. And like I said, the alligators want nothing to do with like us. We're full-grown adults. We are scary to them. And so now you throw out a little 2 or 3 year old kid at the edge of the water and that's dinner.
Right. So, do you bring anything with you though, when you go on those trips to take pictures of animals? Like what if one day some alligator was like, hey, Will, you look like a tasty morsel and I'm going to eat you. Like,
hey, I went out doing what I love.
Oh, so you don't bring any type of weapons or anything to like,
no.
Damn.
What's it going to do anyway? Like, you'd have to get the perfect shot between the eyes if you have with the gun. So if an alligator grabs your leg, they're rolling you.
True.
But if you even just watch videos, any of the people who've ever been attacked by alligators on the videos, they're putting their hands in their mouth and they're trying to do it like a show, you know.
Right.
But when you watch alligators, they'll roll up to people, you can lift their mouths up and all that in the water, and they're not trying. They're scared as heck of big grown people. And you can tell they're like skittish dogs. You can see it in their eyes, you can see it in their arms pushed up, ready to go away from you. It's man. But I'm like Steve Irwin, man. I'm like, oh, look at this. She's a beaut.
He was funny. I miss watching him. His show was great, you know. And like this cobra would be trying to bite him or something. He'd be like,
oh, it's so nice.
He's so naughty. He's a naughty snake. He's trying to bite, you know. I'm like, dude, this thing's trying to kill you, and you think it's okay.
Like, but crikey, he wants to put his venom in my veins.
Yeah, he was one of the greats, man. Now from Yoenzo, you've also done something that I find very interesting and very cool. You worked for Colonel Conrad Reynolds.
I was his campaign manager for a congressional race. Yeah.
In Arkansas.
So I get to add to my resume, I was a campaign manager for a federal congressional race. And so it was actually really fun because I got to meet a ton of cool people around Arkansas. And
now, let me ask you something real quick before we dive too much into it. Now, you're a Florida resident. How does Colonel Conrad Reynolds find some dude in Florida to come be his campaign manager?
In Arkansas.
In Arkansas. I'm sorry.
So when I left Michigan, that was 2002, I came to Arkansas. My family's from Arkansas.
Okay.
So I lived in Arkansas from 2002 to 2017. And when I was here, long story short, but I've always been kind of half in business for myself, half working for someone else. And so the half business for myself, I helped with event planning and things and met him. And then he just saw my genius, you know, it just exudes. And so when he wanted to run again, like we always talked politics. And so he's like, do you want to just come run this thing? And we were a two-man team running a congressional campaign, like almost no money. And man, we made a splash. So I created a method called campaign-ertainment. That's the coinage I used, where I was like, let's half entertain, let's use social media for jokes and memes and kind of be funny and entertaining while actually trying to win a race. So we get people to know your name by being fun and entertaining. Then we can go be serious when we need to be. And so that's where we started. And we made a splash down here. I'm pretty sure almost every establishment Republican hates me.
Well, I mean, and that's a good place to be in because that means you did something right. You know, what was it like doing that? Like, what were your duties as campaign manager really?
Man.
I mean, you did say the social media aspect, but like, did you have to like go to debate?
Let's say, actually, here's a fun fact. None of the winners in Arkansas races would debate anybody during the primary. Nobody would debate. Sarah Huckabee wouldn't debate in her race for governor. We went against a guy named French Hill. He wouldn't debate in Congress. We had a senator, John Bozeman, who was reelected. He wouldn't debate. So
really,
it's almost like they knew they were going to win. And so they didn't want to debate, even though they were all Sarah Huckabee wasn't contested, but the other races were contested. And like there was one race for lieutenant governor, 6 people in the race, and the eventual winner didn't go to the debate with all the other ones. I mean, it's just nuts. Yeah. So, but like, let's say just some fun behind the scenes. If you were doing the podcast with you right now, I'd be over on the side with my phone, like talk about, and then I would have like just get like hold up a hint, so he'd kind of look over and then he'd keep them on track. So I'd be doing stuff like that. So molding the message like is kind of where I would be like, let's keep our message here and here. And I'll remind you if you're on an interview. So we go to radio interviews. I sit next to them and I'm writing notes all the time. Like, all right, talk about this, talk about this, talk about this, talk about $1.7 trillion omnibus bill. Talk about, so, which are full of red flag laws, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and on top of that, they were voted for by people who the NRA had endorsed, and the NRA hasn't said anything about it. It's like, you guys they're sham organizations, man. So that's one thing we realize in politics. All these people who get these endorsements from like NRA right to life, all these things, they are usually the incumbents, in the organizations don't want to blow their chance of having a good relationship with the person who's in office. So they like undermine the other people. They like do little asterisks on things, or in our case, one didn't even show our responses, just endorsed the other guy. Like,
Really?
yeah, didn't even, they put out a voter's guide and didn't even show the responses. And so it's funny. It's like, so we started calling them out. That was the fun part. We had a you know what the term rhino is? A Republican in name only.
Yeah.
And so we made pins that said rhino remover. And so
Nice.
we had like no rhino, and so we went on that. We're like, we're going to be the type of candidate that people need, where we call out the BS instead of letting it slide. So we started calling out these organizations. We started calling out like everybody. We're like, you mess up, you're not doing right by the people, we're calling you out on it. Like, and that became our brand. We were just calling everyone out on everything. We're like, you guys suck.
Actually, absolutely love that, especially, because he was a Republican, correct? He
was Republican. And they call him far right because he likes the Constitution and he wants to go by that. So they call him far right. But it is what it is. He's a 30-year Army colonel, worked in the intelligence agency for 30 years, still has a top secret clearance, which means he has to keep his lifestyle up. They do polygraphs on him like every 2 years. So he's someone of integrity who lives by the code he talks about. And that's one of the things I was like, yeah, I'll help you run. And so we're like, but our problem is you have these partisan politics where the Republicans are like, look at how much money the Democrats are spending. They're doing this and that. And it's like, you guys are voting for all this stuff, but you want to blame Joe Biden or, Barack Obama or whatever. It's like, the Republicans had the House, the Senate, and the presidency in 2017 and 18.
Yep.
They could pass whatever they wanted.
Whatever they wanted.
Did they pass a balanced budget? No.
Nope.
They spent tons of tons of more money. Did they, one of their talking points is always illegal immigration. Did they fix the problem of immigration? Nope. One of the other things was Obamacare. Obamacare is this and that. Did they get rid of it? Nope. So, and don't get me started on Obamacare. The problem with Obamacare is it's about insurance and not healthcare. And that's my problem. They just put tons of money in insurance companies' hands. Anyway.
Well, I have nothing good to say about the healthcare system and insurances and all that, just because it's in such shambles right now. Colonel Conrad Reynolds sounds like he's more of a liberty-leaning Republican, though.
He is. There are things where, like, it's just kind of with me. He's been a Republican since he was 11. That's 1971. So he knew he was a Republican then. For me, I can't say I'm a Republican or a Democrat because neither party cares when it comes to the party itself. Like they're all about the donors and keeping the swamp, what I call the uniparty, keeping it rolling. They have the same goals. It's, you got to keep Raytheon and Boeing and these guys in business. Yep. So we got to, we got to go to war with Russia, so we got to keep these guys in up. And so these are the things that I don't have a party because these party people keep doing such. But he knew he was a Republican. But there's a what Republicans stand for, like guidelines, and
right
party platform. And he is like, go down and check that list. Like, yeah, I want smaller government. I want to spend less money. I want, these kind of things to happen. And he wants to keep where if you work, you're going to get the rewards. We can't keep rewarding those who don't put in the effort. Just for being alive, you don't deserve to have a house, 2 cars. You can have a house, you need to have living. But what I'm saying is, like, a 4-bedroom house, 2 cars, TVs in every room, everyone has a cell phone, but you're not contributing to society. And that's kind of where that like goes, where the opposite, it's like, yeah, you're alive, so you deserve everything that Bill Gates has because you're alive.
Right. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, too good, but like the way that we were taught, like people like us growing up, us, us Gen Xers or whatever, where,
Yeah.
where you got to put in the work to get the results or to get the success.
That's right.
It seems today's society has taken out the put in the work part.
Yeah.
Like you just automatically deserve this wonderful job that pays you $30 plus an hour, and you didn't have to do anything to work for it, whether it be school or on job training or whatever. You just,
Yep. You didn't
you
go get it
deserve this
certified.
because whatever.
Yeah.
And that's not how this works. As a business owner myself, I have a small paint company, and by small, I mean, it's just me by myself, but
Yeah.
it would be hard for me, and I would never do it in a million years, to pay some kid that doesn't know nothing about nothing, $25+ an hour. I'm not doing it. Like, that's
No, it makes no business sense.
if you have no skills, I'm going to pay you $15 an hour. That's what you're going to do.
And then you're going to learn on the job, and I'm going to train you.
And if you get better, and I'm not bashful about pay, I've had guys making 30, $35 an hour working for me before. It's not that I'm bashful about pay, but you got to be worth it. You got to put in the work or have the experience. You don't just get to make that kind of money. Or like even the people who are, working in entry-level positions, they're entry-level positions for a reason.
Yeah.
They're not, those jobs weren't never.
But hey, man, you're coming from white privilege, man. You're coming from white privilege. You've just had the silver spoon in your mouth, so you don't know what you're talking about with this. That's what people say when we start talking. It's like, you guys don't realize how poor I was.
Like, I grew up poor. Like, it was just my mom and I for the first 8 years. I'm talking ramen noodles and SpaghettiOs and hot dogs. And
oh man, you're lucky you had ramen noodles.
But you know what I mean? Like, I mean,
I'm gonna tell you a true story. We were so poor one time that my dad used to know when the grocery store threw out the vegetables. We would go to the dumpster and find the bag that had the vegetables in it and pull out the dumpster food out of behind the grocery store so we could get the vegetables. So we'd have some lettuce and or maybe some fruits, some apples that had the dents on them and stuff like that. Like, he knew when it was going out, and so we'd go and get it out of the dumpster. So we'd have some stuff.
Damn, dude, that's and so but that's the thing. Like, everybody, not everybody, but the media will portray, and it's always, it's funny. We're at that age now where we get, pointed out a lot by media. So we're middle-aged white dudes, right? Who, in the media's eyes, are the worst ever. We are horrible people, and whatever. That's the media in a nutshell. Which is so far from the truth. Like, you and I both grew up poor. We both had to bust our ass to get to where we are, and we had to grind it out. And I'm glad I did that. I'm glad nothing got thrown on my lap. It gave me some sense of like,
what happens to a caterpillar in a cocoon if you open the cocoon for it?
Nothing.
It dies.
Yeah.
It has to struggle out of the cocoon to be a butterfly. And so you got to put in the struggle and the hustle so you can spread your wings and fly. And the people that are given to, you often see, like, the children of rich people. They become drug addicts and, prostitute addicts, and they end up getting killed or committing suicide. It's because they didn't have to get themselves out of the cocoon. They were born a butterfly, and then there's a crow sitting right there.
Right,
it's just
right.
Like, when you had to get through that struggle, you have something else that lets you survive. But and I'd be remiss if I say if I didn't mention, for me, I feel there's a hole in a lot of people, and that's because they don't have a religion, and they don't have the fulfillment of what I have by knowing Jesus. Like, for me, like, that emptiness got filled. It's like there's a hole in you when you don't have it, when you don't realize that there's something worth living for, and a compass, and someone kind of showing you how to do it. And so for me, the struggle went through, but then I got completed once I realized, like, I'm not living for me, I'm living for the betterment of humanity, and that is shown to me through Jesus. And so for me, that's important, because you see a lot of these rich people who are unhappy, and it's because they're lacking it. They lack that fulfillment that you can only get because we're people who have looked for religion our whole lives.
Right.
Like, I mean, our whole history, we're looking for the meaning. And once you finally have one in you, man, it's such a different peace and calm that, like, they were talking about the bird never wakes up worrying, am I going to have food today? Right.
Right.
Because he knows it's going to get provided for. And for me, I'm like, if I'm doing my part, I feel I'm going to get provided for. It's going to happen. You know, there might be some tough days or whatever, but you know, it happens. And I always end up on the good side of things. And
that's right. I mean, having faith in something is very important. Like, you know, Martin Luther King Day was just here, and
yeah,
Martin Luther King wouldn't have done or been able to do what he did without his faith.
correct.
You know,
That was
his faith in the Lord is what drove him to do what he did and to make things better. And a lot of people, you know, skip that, you know,
yeah.
and not to get like too much into religion and stuff like that, you know. I've recently gotten closer with the Lord because I got sick and
Proud
whatnot.
of you, man.
But you know, it was just one of those things. I'll tell you what, man, when you're in the hospital and you're in so much pain that you're literally praying to God to either take your pain or take your life,
Yeah.
like that's deep, dude. And that
Yep.
kind of changed me. And now I'm still here. So I feel like I got to do right by the Lord a little bit, you know, not a little bit, but a lot of bit, you know, but not to get too much into that. Let's you know, what was the biggest thing you learned by working for the campaign for Colonel Conrad Reynolds?
You know, almost everything in the politics seems to be a facade. I mean, the way you work, the groups and the people that seem like they're for a cause, it's all about the self. I found that in like a lot of people where, we're going to use the cause to get what we want. Like, let's just say the cause is the Second Amendment, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to use the cause to get what we want. NRA is going to use the Second Amendment to get donations, to keep people filling in money. And then they go out and endorse people who vote for red flag laws and things like that. So they're not about the cause. And a lot of these famous politicians are kind of similar. And so we found out, like, you know, you're trying to get help from someone, and then they're like, yeah, you know, do you have money? And it's
Right.
things like that. It's like, if we didn't have money, or if we had money, we wouldn't need the help. You know, it's kind of like, we thought you were for the cause. So if you want to say, hey, I'm rocking with this guy because he's way pro 2A, it's like, you know, if you want to have AR-15s in every corner of your house, have at it. Which was funny because most people are against AR-15s, thinks that AR stands for automatic rifle. But anyway, and so,
or assault rifle. They think
assault
that
rifle,
literally
yeah.
stands for assault rifle. I'm like, where the hell do you get this shit from? You know, but
Yep.
here we are, you know.
Yeah, but I learned that a lot of people, that's what it was about. They weren't about the cause. But you know, there are people that aren't really liked by the left, but I'll still name drop, like General Michael Flynn. He was down for the cause of getting patriotic Americans in office, and he went out of his way to make sure people knew that Conrad was an army of officer with integrity who would be good for the people of Arkansas. Like, so he was down for the cause. But then, like, a Marjorie Taylor Greene, she wasn't going to help at all. Like, nope. And then, like, you get emails like, you know, for $3,000, you can ask a question on Zoom.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, I mean, it was just ridiculous. And then now you see her out shilling for Kevin McCarthy and stuff like that. And so it's like, you see where the people aren't about the cause, you know. And if the cause is having liberty-minded Americans in office that are going to hold the government responsible, you should be about the cause and help whoever you can. Which is like, in Arizona, there's a lady named Wendy Rogers. She's a state senator, and but she's like a MAGA queen, you know, like Trump loves her, things of that sort. But she's about the cause, man. I was working with her, and she's on the phone trying to make sure Trump endorses XYZ candidate. She's working like hard for other people instead of working for herself at the time. We were out to knock doors for her. and I was going to do video and photography of it. But she was like, I'm going to stop because I need to make sure this other person gets in office because it's good for the American people. And when people are about the cause, it's awesome, but they're few and far in between. So that's what I learned is almost all these organizations and these people that are on Fox News or NBC or CNBC, they're not really about the cause. They're all about their personal preservation.
Personal preservation and lining their pockets. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
everything is a fundraising thing. Like
It
you brought
is.
up the border and a
Yep.
little bit, a couple times during the show. And I just had Lars Mapstead on the show last week.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you're familiar with Lars. He's a libertarian presidential candidate for 2024. Very cool cat. He needs to be taken seriously when it comes to the 24 election, I think. But he was telling me, you know, and it made sense how the both sides, the right and the left, use the border for
the
campaign funding.
Just
we'll
like
fix this problem if you give us money, or no, we'll fix this problem if you give us money. And in the meantime, there's people in prison suffering, and nothing's getting done. You know, but they use it as a tool to.
But you get
raise money.
Ocasio-Cortez to go do a picture where she fake ugly cries. You know.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then you get other like Republicans that'll go down like Lindsey Graham pointing at we need to have this, this, and this. But nobody does anything. We had Barack Obama with a Democrat Senate and a Democrat House, and they could have done whatever they wanted.
They could have gone full-blown socialist if they
could have done whatever. They could have done everything they've been promising people. What they did is they gave insurance companies a crap ton of money. They spend a ton of money in war and all that kind of stuff, but nothing about the core problems people care about. And, you know, people care about how much baby formula is going to cost, but we don't address that. You know, they don't care. And so the supply chain lines and all that, no, we're going to put our money into studying which pronouns should be used while we're in Afghanistan getting shelled. True story.
I mean, it is though. That's how it is.
I have a friend who was a captain in the Army. They're getting shelled in Afghanistan, and they're like, "We want permission to return fire." They're like, you know what? We need to do a gender neutrality study during this.
Jeez.
And it's like, what's the war? What's the point of the Army? It's to win battles and wars. But it's become a social experiment now, which is why people don't want to sign up anymore. So
there's a lot to be said about people signing up and not signing up about that.
Oh yeah.
But dude, speaking of like being part of the cause, you're doing something pretty cool over there in Arkansas. You've been working on something very cool, the Voter Integrity Initiative.
The Arkansas Voter Integrity Initiative. We're about to rebrand to the American Voter Integrity Initiative, I think, because what we're doing is working and it's spreading. And
because, you know, we all know that the election system is very flawed. You know, me being an anarchist or a libertarian, whatever you want to call me, I have very little belief in our system, especially when it comes to voter integrity. I believe that the elections have been rigged for decades. And that
how often have we heard in our life your vote doesn't count?
Yeah, lots of times.
They already chose the winner.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, we've heard it forever.
That's the thing. Like, the deciders have decided who they want as their puppet for the next 4 years. And then they make us feel good about life, saying, hey, you're going to make a difference if you go to these polls and vote. But the deciders have already decided, and that's crazy. So what is your initiative with this, you know, voter integrity initiative?
Well, I'm going to tell you about you go to the poll and vote. They put the pressure on you because they need you. They need numbers so they can mask things. And we're going to use Day as the boogeyman. We're just going to pretend it's the boogeyman. And so they need as many numbers as they can so they can mask and hide. So because let's just say 1,000 voters show up, it's going to be hard to put in, let's just say 600 extra votes or something of that sort. So they need 28,000 to show up so 600 can go in and it's not really noticed. If that makes sense. But what we're doing in Arkansas is we've identified a flaw in our system. And again, like I said, I've worked with Colonel Reynolds, who is a military intelligence officer. He has worked for the CIA, FBI, NSA, all of them. And he looked at these voting computers and he's like, these are the most unsafe aspect of voting that we could have. He's like, in other countries, he didn't say we've done it, but he's like, we could do it, whatever we wanted to these machines and have whatever outcome we want to have happen. And it's easy when everybody's on a computer, because one person in Afghanistan or Iran could be like, and and now you have a different outcome on a mass scale. In the past, people are like, oh, well, paper ballots, people used to stuff ballot boxes and all that. But we've evolved since back in the day. We're in the, what century are we in? 21st century now?
Yeah. Where's the flying cars?
We're still in the 90s or 2020s, I forget. But and they're like, they think of paper ballots the old way, but we're like, we got to get these computers out, because these election computers are owned by companies who have no identity. They're hidden behind a firewall of privacy of investors, so they don't let you know who owns the companies. So in Michigan, you guys use Dominion, Hart Civic, and ES&S. Those are a mixture of the three around the state. Mm-hmm. ES&S and Dominion have private ownership. You do not know who owns the company. You do not know how they make money. You do not know what they profit, how they profit, where their money comes from. So if Sean Collins wants Will Huff to get elected, and Sean Collins has $1 billion, Sean Collins might be able to go find someone to invest in that company. And then guess what? Will Huff is the elector, is the one getting elected.
Wow.
I mean, It's feasible. It's possible because of what's there. We had Dr. Dougherty. He's a professor from Texas A&M. He's cybersecurity expert, loves computers, works in quantum computing right now. PhD from Harvard. He wears a Mensa, so he's a genius, and he tells everyone he wears a Mensa tag. But he's like, I love computers. They're great. They've made our life better. He's like, but we can't use them in elections. He's like, because they're too easy to manipulate by single entities.
Amen.
And then we go back to the military. Everything the military's ever built has a back door. So if we built tanks and sent them to Israel, and then Israel decided, hey, you know what? We're going to attack the United States. There are back doors that we could like, that tank is done. It just burns up and it doesn't work anymore. Or missiles, it's launching at us. We control the GPS now. Turn it around. We build back doors in anything. So to think that election computers are different is kind of silly. To think that they can't be hacked. The DOD's been hacked. Everything's been hacked. But what we're trying to do is there are studies that show that people who mark ballots with a pen or a pencil, their intent is accurately recorded. But on the vote machines, sometimes they hit the wrong button. Right. The calibration is off, all different kinds of things. But with human nature, we're in a hurry and want convenience. So when we're touching it, we hurry up and print and we go out, and that's it. And a study out of University of Michigan, 93% of people didn't notice mistakes that were on their ballot after they did the touch screen. Oh, wow. And the researchers flipped things on purpose. And then they sat there and told them, review your ballot, look at your ballot before you stick it in the next machine. Look at it. 93% of people did not notice the mistakes. And then wow. they've timed people. They've watched them on video. When you look at your ballot, most don't look at it. But the ones who do look at it look really quick, and then it's like that. It's like they can't read all those names to make sure their intent was accurately recorded. And so we have the problem of voter intent. I think you and I both, if we're having elections, we think every voter should have their intent accurately recorded and counted. I don't care what party you are. I don't care anything about
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Like, if a libertarian wins, good job. A Republican wins, good job. A Democrat wins, good job. But it should be legit that everybody can trust it. And that's our problem right now is like NBC did a poll. 80% of people do not trust the outcome of the elections with the machines.
Because let's be real, dude. Joe Biden didn't get 81 million votes. I don't care what anybody says. I don't believe that for 3 seconds. There's no way he got more votes than Obama. Everybody loved Obama. I didn't love Obama, but a lot of people loved Obama. And he got more votes than him? No.
Yeah, I'll tell you a bit of difference though in that. There's a line that says, "Never let a good tragedy go to waste," or I think that's how it goes. But they got the mail-in voting system started, and in the last 4 years, what changed is Democrats stopped campaigning, and they started collecting ballots. They switched from campaigning to getting ballots collected. That became the goal. It's no longer, hey, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do this for you. No, they have apps that say 8,000 Black people live in this neighborhood. 6,000 of these people have not turned in their ballots yet. Go get them to fill out their ballot and turn it in for them. So it became a ballot drive instead of going for elections. That's why people are staying in their basements now. They don't have to go campaign if they know that they can go collect more ballots than the other person. And that's where this mail-in ballot system has hurt voter integrity, because you got people coming to your door like, I work with candidate A. We see you haven't filled out your ballot yet. Would you like to fill it out right now? What's that make you feel? Who are you going to vote for?
But here, let's walk this back for a second now.
Yeah.
Let's walk this back just a little bit. Think about how fucked up it is that people can show up to your house asking you why you haven't voted yet, like
Correct.
that's any of their business.
None.
Like what? Like not only is that intrusive, that's ethically and morally like fucked up.
It is. In Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Arizona have apps that Democrats use to just go collect ballots of people who have not sent in their mail-in. So in these systems with the mail-in, when you return it, it gets scanned by like a barcode that says this ballot has been returned, and then that goes in. That's technically you can get a Freedom of Information Act and see who has turned their ballot in, because it's public communication. So then they take that, plug it in, remove addresses, and then go back to the ones that they think these are guys are going to be Democrat. So we're going to go make sure we get their ballots.
So that being said, how can anybody even believe that our election system has any type of integrity whatsoever when they already know who has and hasn't voted, or who they voted for, who they didn't vote for? I mean, dude, I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about this. Like,
let's just look at Arizona. Look at Arizona. Carrie Lake versus Katie Hobbs. Carrie Lake goes out. She has hundreds and hundreds of people every time she shows up someplace. Katie Hobbs stayed in her basement. Katie Hobbs ran her election as the Secretary of State was in charge of the election of Arizona. And so she was in charge of everything. But they in Arizona had the system set up. They know who was voting and who wasn't voting through the mail-in system. So this whole system that was created for COVID was really created so you know who has voted and who hasn't voted. And so you go to a city like, let's just say Detroit, that's going to be 90% Democrat. You want to make sure you collect every ballot that was mailed out and get that turned in. And so it becomes a strategy on gathering votes and not about campaigning on what you're going to do.
That's disgusting. That's truly disgusting.
But that's one part of it. But so the Obama 81 million is feasible based on, I mean, it's feasible based on going to collect ballots. But what we had is the problem. What's that?
You mean Biden?
Yeah, Biden.
Oh, I was like, wait, Obama? No.
Yeah, Biden beating Obama. Biden
Same person, really.
Yeah, Biden. So it's the Irish guy, Biden.
Seriously.
So, but I mean, it is feasible. But our problem is ballots getting congregated. There's no chain of command or of custody, no chain of custody for the ballots. So now you just have to trust that the guy running the county got everything in the right place when things are getting congregated by, in Arizona, millions, hundreds and hundreds of thousands, or Detroit, all of them together, or Atlanta. You have to trust that the chain of custody was maintained, and it hasn't been usually. And that's when people are pulling out stacks of ballots and scanning. You can't have trust that was legit.
Well, it's funny that you even say we have to have trust in some sort of elected official to do
Yeah.
the right thing in general.
Yeah, you know, a lot of times though, those elected officials are actually good people and well-meaning. It's who can take advantage of the system that they are in charge of. That's the problem. Taking advantage of the system that somebody else is in charge of. Now that person feels attacked when you say this election could have been fraudulent. They're like, oh, I signed my name. I said, that's good. You're attacking me. You hate me. And that's what we're seeing in Arkansas here. In Arkansas, we're saying these machines have unknown ownership, parts made in China, and we don't know if we can trust the outcome because there's no transparency. There's nobody to hold accountable, and we can't verify the accuracy. I'll get into that in a minute. But the election commissioners and stuff here who are actually awesome, super cool people who want our same thing, voter intent to be accurately recorded. They're like, you're telling me I ran a bad election, and we're like, no, we're not. So they take it personal, but it's somebody else taking advantage of them. If it's happening, I'm gonna air quote because I don't want to get sued by a company. So in general though, in Arkansas, we have what they call e-poll books. That is a voter roll. That's every registered voter for your area is in that book. So I can go vote anywhere I want. I don't have to go only to that one place next to my house anymore. They created what they call vote centers. So they take down like 42 precincts, combine them into 12 locations, and now you have to drive somewhere, but you can vote any of those because it's an electronic poll book. But that thing is connected to the internet. So that thing is not controlled by the state. It is controlled by a third-party company. In Arkansas's case, it's ES&S. So they know immediately that Will Huff showed up, showed his ID, and said he's voting. So this company knows in real time that I'm there to vote because it has to be connected to the internet so I don't go to another place and vote again. So the internet, it's in the rules, the law. You have to have a hotspot internet for these poll books. So that's in the rule. Now, all the election people say these other computers are not connected to the internet. And I'm like, how do you know? How do you know those computers aren't talking to that poll book? They can't answer it. It's like if you come in with a spectrometer and like run every machine and seen like, oh, no signal coming out. Like they're like, no. So we're like, okay, so you see, there could be a little bit of an issue here. And they're like, oh, maybe, but we're told by the company that there's no internet. It's like the same company for 6 years had stuff hidden in their machines that they lied about that were sending signals back and forth to them so they could collect data. Same company. And it's like, so you just trust them. All right. Well, I'd rather trust the people here marking the votes and checking all that. So in our system in Arkansas, after you touch the buttons, it prints out this sheet of paper and they tell everyone, read the names, read the names, read the names. And so it'll have the list of people like, oh, Sean Collins, Will Huff, oh, yep, my names are there. They go stick it in this next machine. That next machine cannot read that text. The technology is not there in these machines to read English text. What happens is they put up a set of barcodes at the top. All it reads are barcodes. And we ask this question rhetorically, do you read barcode? Is that a language you've studied? Can you read barcode? And they're like, no. We're like, exactly. So in law, federal law and state laws, it says the voter has the right to verify that their selections are accurately recorded before they submit their ballot. And we're like, how do you verify your vote's accurately recorded when it's in barcode?
That's the $1 million question.
We sued the Secretary of State, the Election Commission, and ES&S. We have a lawsuit out right now that says these machines don't abide by the law because not one person can verify that their vote is accurately recorded. And so we're going to see how that
this
goes.
is probably going on all over the United States.
It is
100%.
But here's the difference between all the other, they're gonna be like, oh, these election deniers, this and that. It's like, we're not denying any election. We say we see a flaw that can be exploited. We want to fix it for the future. And that's our route. It's like, we're not saying anybody in the past is illegitimate. We're not saying XYZ happened. We're not saying any of that. We're saying we can't read barcode. We can't verify our vote. That's one reason the tabulating machines that you stick it in have to go. Our other one, though, is the touch screen. We know, like I said, from all these studies, that people make more mistakes on the touch screen and don't notice them. So their voter intent is not accurately recorded. So that's why the touch screen's got to go. So our goal is hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots. And now people are like, oh, man, hand-counted. They act like we've never done it before in the history of the world. They're like, how are we going to do this? Oh, my gosh. How are we going to count so many? But there's a group in Missouri that hand-counted ballots, and they realized for every 4 people, you can count about 150 ballots per minute. Or per hour, not minute. That would be fast.
Oh, my gosh.
If you use robot people.
Right.
No, but 150 per hour. So let's just break it down and do it like maybe there are a couple extra elections. For 16 people in 3 hours, you could probably do 5,000 ballots.
Yeah.
So that's what it takes. So let's say Michigan has these voting precincts and you have 5,000 votes in it. You'd have them all counted from set. You start at 7, you start counting, you're done by 10, 10:30, and you have the results of a hand counted ballot. And now it's not like the old days of hand counting. We have more technology. We could easily live stream a hand count, put the ballot under a camera, say, okay, 1 for Sean, 1 for Will, 1 for Beavis, and then, you keep tally. And then after every so often, you say, can we get a total for Beavis? And they say, Beavis has 25, Beavis has 25, Beavis has 25. We're all on the same page. Then you go, and then you do it again. How many for Sean? Sean has 41. Sean has 41. And now you're staying on track that everybody's getting the same. You have a Democrat, a Republican, a Libertarian, or Independent, double checking that the counts are being done accurately. And so it's not like paper of the old day. Plus, they have paper technology now that has watermarks built in, infrared, like things so you can check it to see it's legit, built-in hologram, so you can't just go make a copy. So like if I'm an election commissioner, I get given 10,000 ballots, 8,000 people voted, I have 2,000 unused, and I say, we have it all. None were tossed, none were thrown out. And so paper ballots aren't as scary as people keep trying to make it seem. But the other thing
sounds pretty simple to me, really. It sounds simple. Like very
other people, they go, oh, you're just doing this because of Trump's big lie. Trump's big lie. That's why you're doing it. And I say, you know what the big lie is? That you're calling it a big lie. But anyway.
Right, exactly.
But there were irregularities. There were things that should be talked about in it. And so by saying this was the most perfect secure election was funny and ridiculous. But let's go back before that. In January of 2020, Kamala Harris put out a tweet. It said the United States needs to go back to embracing hand-marked paper ballots. That's Kamala Harris.
Something.
I'm going to say, okay, I don't think she's just doing that because of Trump's big lie, but let's go that. Let's go 2 years before, 2018. A study was put out by Senator Warren, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, and a couple other people. And it was their worries about our election machines. Like, we don't know the owners of the companies. There's a black box. We can't see the code. We don't know how it's tabulated. We don't know what it's doing inside. All the parts are made by an adversary in China with no oversight. So we don't know if they're putting in tracking, if they can tell real time, what they're texting or not. We don't know because nobody's looking at the parts in China. So Elizabeth Warren had this long report about why we need to go back to paper ballots. So if they want to say it's Trump's big lie, let's just say it's, that's BS, because the thing is people haven't trusted the outcome. How much did you hear? Russia after 2016. Trump only won because of Russia.
Every election, it's something. Every single one, it's something.
So why not get rid of the machines?
It sounds simple to me. It sounds simple to you. It probably sounds simple to most of the people that listen to the show. you know, I'm on board with what you're talking about. I think we need to make it a little more simple and easier.
Transparent. It needs to be transparent so people trust the outcome. But
because what we're getting right now is very dishonest, and I'm not afraid to admit it, and I'll catch a lot of heat for it, but our elections are not honest whatsoever. They're not accurate whatsoever, you know, and this is why, you know, the same people keep getting elected all the time.
Yep.
You know, think
why
about
does
people who have been in Congress for 900 years?
Why does Mitch McConnell have like a 9% approval rating and win every time?
Every time. And he's been doing this for decades.
Yeah. And so there was even an article in 2018 about ES&S machines in Kentucky cheating for Mitch McConnell. So there's I want to say this, it's not me saying it, but the whispers are Dominion cheats for the elitist Democrats,
Right.
And so that keeps out of Bernie Sanders and these type of people. ES&S cheats for elitist Republicans. So that keeps out any of the people who are challenging that power hierarchy. So that's always the rumor, is that ES&S is for Republicans, Dominion is for Democrats. The precursor to ES&S was in Ohio in 2004, and the CEO said, we're going to deliver Ohio for Bush. The CEO of the company that made the computers for voting said, wow, we're going to deliver Ohio for George Bush. It's like, it's just ridiculous. And so we shouldn't even have these kind of questions that linger. Like, you know, if each state made their own voting system, then the Secretary of State is held responsible. The code would be open and things of that sort where anybody could go check. Like, a tabulating computer should just be +1, +1, +1, +1.
Right.
Why are some people finding fractional votes, like 1.35, and then the other guy got 0.65? Like,
it doesn't make much sense.
No, it should be +1, +1, +1, +1. It should be that easy. But like, so all different kinds of things don't make sense. And yes, there's human error when counting ballots, but we have technology to help mitigate that. We have cameras. You can have it under a camera, and so you never need to do a recount again. Just have it on camera, recorded live, and everyone can say, yep, I'm watching my race, 1, 1, 1, 1, and they can do the counting with everybody. And so these computers add too much of an unknown variable. Everything can be hacked. Everybody has been hacked.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so to say these machines are any different is just baloney. Like, you can't make statements like that. You can't make definite statements on these computers. They're not connected to the internet. You can't make that definite statement because you have no clue.
No, it's impossible.
You have no clue.
These computers are made by man, run by man. They can be manipulated at any point, period.
Yep.
That's just what it is.
But that's what people say. Well, you got to trust that paper ballots won't be manipulated. I'm like, you know what? At least we have someone to hold accountable if it does happen.
Right.
Right now, we have nobody to hold accountable.
You can blame the machine. You know?
On Friday, look this up. New Jersey, a race changed. The winner changed because they accidentally found out that the machine was double counting for one candidate.
Oh,
I mean, this is a couple days ago. Wow. The company ES&S.
Was it Senate or governor or what?
No, it was local. It was like city council.
Okay,
but they go, oops, you know. And so if it were the election commissioner or the county clerk or something, they would be resigning from their job. There's somebody to hold responsible. Right now it's ES&S, and it's just oops. I read a story. I pretty sure it was accurate, but I want to make sure. It could be fake news. But like, I've read it in multiple places that there was a county in New Mexico that did a hand count, and it was 25% off of the computer count. There was a race in Iowa. Yeah, it was Iowa recently, like a couple months ago. Changed once they did the hand count. The machine count had somebody else winning by like 80 or 90 votes. The hand count flipped it back 140 plus the other person. Wow. So the machine should never have a discrepancy. They should be 100%. They're reading barcode, for Christ's sake. I mean, there should be no discrepancy. But they do. They have these. And so all it gets marked up to is oops. And there's nobody to hold responsible.
Well, yeah, because they're not going to hold themselves
no.
Well, that'll never.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about these machines. They get certified by a group called the EAC, Election something Commission. I forget what it's called, but it's the EAC. They are the ones that approve the machines. Guess who the board of the EAC is?
People from government.
No, worse. People from the machine companies set the standards on the machines. Geez. So the board members are from ES&S, Dominion, Hart Civic, and these guys create the board to put the standards on the machines that they have to follow. So they are policing themselves on the standards. And then there are two companies that can test the machines to get certification. These two companies are private equity groups. We do not know who owns them. We don't know who owns the machines. We don't know who owns the company that certifies the machines. So what's possible? The owner of the machines could be certifying themselves.
Yeah,
because they own both companies. Who knows? I mean,
what's to say, like, you know, whatever Republican or whatever Democrat, you know, sliding an envelope saying, hey, you make this go this way for X amount of dollars. And let's not pretend that doesn't happen, because it definitely does.
So in Arkansas, we're very big here on agricultural. So to have certain people in federal government who get to direct agricultural money to Arkansas is a big deal. It's worth billions of dollars. So if I'm just going to make up a company, I'm Grain Company A, and I say, you know what, I have 50 million I can put on to make sure this guy is elected. Maybe there's somebody that takes that, a programmer in India who says, I found the back door, and he makes sure it happens, and all in, because that system is built up for the possibility. There's so many possibilities. So we can't say it doesn't happen. There's no way. And they're like, oh, we do audits. We do tests beforehand. We're like, do you remember Dieselgate with Volkswagen? I don't know if you remember. Every time the Volkswagen was getting tested, the computer knew it was being tested, so it changed the emission results to pass certification.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like, let's just say it was supposed to get 28 miles a gallon. In reality, it was getting 21, and it was letting out all kinds of CO2. But as soon as it knew it was testing, it was getting 28, and no CO2 was coming out because it knew it was being tested. Volkswagen did it for years.
Wow,
and then they got fined.
That's pretty slick on their end, but shit, you know.
So you're telling me that can't happen to an election computer? It knows when it's being tested, so it's not going to mess up. It has a clock inside of it. It's like, yeah, it's not election day. I'm not going to run an algorithm. But hey, it's election day. Let's kick on an algorithm between 11 and 3 p.m., 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. Everyone who runs that, there's an algorithm making sure votes, you know? So, I mean, it's possible. With paper ballots, what's possible is some people stuff a couple, remove a couple, but that's left at the precinct levels. It's going to take a giant conspiracy of getting everybody across the state to do the same thing to get in the Senate.
Yeah, you'd have to get more people on board with it to where the machine will just do it all for you. You know, it's kind of like, think about, like, you know, the World Series where the Astros cheated, right?
Yep.
Now, that doesn't work unless the whole team is involved on that.
They have to be.
They have to be.
Justin Verlander wasn't ignoring the bangs on the
trash can. You know, it's as much as it sucks and, you know, it sounds bad or whatever, like, they all had to be on it together to make it work. The same thing kind of goes for, you know, if they were hand counting votes to manipulate that, everybody or a majority
you have to have
be on board.
The Republican, the Democrat, the Independent all in on it.
Which they're not going to be.
Who are sitting there watching the box. Then that's at one precinct. You have to have that at all these precincts.
Yeah.
But most people who go to work elections and count votes, they want the same thing we want, an accurate, fair election.
Yes.
And so you're not going to get that with somebody in, like I say, India, Pakistan, Iran, whatever. If they know how to get in the back door of that computer, it's just game over from before it ever started. And so that's the thing that the computers put in. I love technology. I'm an early adopter to all kinds of things. And I actually wasn't even thinking about the computers being an issue until we started looking into all these cybersecurity people. And they're like, you can't have the computers in elections. Western Europe uses no computers in elections. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
They hand count every hand count every election. because they know the United States is probably messing with it.
Well,
So Germany kicked them out, said they were unconstitutional. Scotland kicked them out. England is like, nope, we're never going to it. Like,
good for them.
there's a reason. And so most Americans are like, let's be like Europe. Let's be like Europe. But for some reason, they don't want to be like Europe on this. So
right.
It's just silly. Like, and a lot of these machines were developed for people like Chavez and those guys down in Venezuela who wanted to keep themselves in power. They just control the computer. And it was Stalin. Stalin said it doesn't matter who votes, it matters who counts the votes.
Yep.
And so right now it's a third party company counting votes, but we don't even know who they are. And
yes.
they're regulating themselves.
Yeah, see, I'm not with that. And now let's move on to a couple more things. I don't want to take too much of your time. We've been at this for a minute. But
an hour and a half now, man.
I know. So dude, you have recently been to I don't want to call it a rally, but a Trump event that was invite only, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, it hasn't happened yet.
Oh, it hasn't happened yet.
February 15th.
Yeah, I thought you already went to this.
No, it's February 15th. So okay. I'm going in February to West Palm Beach to Mar-a-Lago, and we'll be with President Trump. And he's been excited about what we're doing in Arkansas, because in Arkansas, we actually got one county to, by law, say we're going to hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots. We're the first people to ever ditch all of the machines and just say, you know what? We're done with it too. We see the problem. And now we got other counties. So in Arkansas, the law, each county gets to decide what method they use. We have about 5 more ready to go in the next month and a half. And we got all this. So Trump was pretty excited. He actually was on Truth Social and shared that this Arkansas county did that.
Okay.
And so there's going to be a little bit of a round table there. And then the group that invited us, they're actually going to honor him for Supreme Court picks. That's actually, so we're going to be talking election integrity and the Supreme Court, stuff like that. So, but yeah, I'll be down there with President Trump in a couple weeks.
You'll have to keep me informed on how that goes. I'm really intrigued to see. You know, I'm no Trumper by all means, but like, you know, to know somebody that would experience something like that, because let's be honest, the guy knows how to throw a party and he knows how to, like, you know, put a gala together per se.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, it's going to be a lot of fun.
What's funny about Trump, man, is nobody hated him until he chose a party. As soon as he said he was Republican, people hated him.
Well, I mean, because he was a New York Democrat forever and ever and ever.
And he used to party with Diddy and all these people. I mean, he was always with Snoop. And I mean, he was with all these people. Do you remember the story about Jennifer Hudson, her family getting murdered?
No, I do not.
Do you know who Jennifer Hudson is? The singer?
Yeah,
her family was murdered by her, like, cousin-in-law or something. Killed her mom, her dad, her sister, all this stuff. Trump flew his plane to her, took her back to New York, and gave her a suite, you know, not like we're charging you, for as long as she needed at the top of Trump Tower. Gave her the whole thing. It's like, you stay here as long as you want it. But then as soon as he was Republican and said, hey, we want immigration laws, well, you're a racist.
I mean, the media did go after him. I'm not going to, you know, say, you know, whatever about.
He doesn't help himself.
He really doesn't help himself. But you know, to move on to something that's not so serious and to close it out, you know, we're both football nerds. So, would you like to go to the Super Bowl this year, man?
So, in August, I think it was August 19th, I texted my friend Tyler. My friend Tyler is a huge Eagles fan. And I told him I had a dream the Eagles were going to the Super Bowl. That was in August. No, it was even before preseason, I think, when I texted him. Yeah, so it was beginning of August. I said, the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl. So I can't back away from that. So I'm going to say the Eagles are still going. I want to see Cincinnati go back. And I think that's going to happen because Mahomes is not going to be Mahomes in this next game.
No, he's hurt. He got hurt on Sunday.
He's hurt. And that ankle injury is okay to come back for during that game. I bet he's on crutches all week this week.
Because, I mean, he shouldn't be, he shouldn't be putting any weight on that or whatever. With
not all, no. He doesn't have any
not even practice or anything, really.
None. And when he gets to Sunday, that adrenaline is not going to hold that ankle up like it did the day it got hurt, because your body tightens up then. Now it's lost. Like I'll equate it to I was in Milford playing basketball down at the park. With Ben Fleming was on the team against me. I don't know if you know Ben.
I know
But
Ben.
I went up for a rebound and I came down on the side of his foot. My ankle flipped out. It dislocated.
Okay.
Everybody kind of stopped. They're like, "Uh-oh." I hop over, my foot's dangling. I go over to the bench and I pop it back in. And then they're like, "Hey, do we need to get someone for you?" I'm like, "No, I can get this. I can play." I went and finished the game. Our team won. So we kept the court. I was like, I'm going to sit down for a second. I sat down for about 2 minutes. It was like, boop, my ankle was huge. and I was done for about 2 or 3 weeks. Like, so that adrenaline or right away, you can go play. But it's the next days and stuff when it sucks. And I think Mahomes is going to be feeling that. He's not going to be the same. Now, he's an all right pocket quarterback, but he makes his living on the scrambles, the side.
Well, yeah, he's a mover and shaker out there, you know.
And so it's going to be a different dynamic. But Kelsey is just a beast. But I see Cincinnati being able to pull it out. Probably close, probably 27-24, something like that.
I do too. I think Cincinnati goes. I actually think Joe Burrow gets a ring this year. I just do. I think Joe Burrow, this is his time. But
the story of Purdy is just would be amazing.
I think San Francisco is going to win. That's who I'm picking to win that game, just because he's another Brady story. The last pick in the draft.
Last pick.
The 2 quarterbacks get hurt in order for him to play. You know, how does that ever happens? Yeah, exactly. He balls out, dude. Now he's going to the NFC Championship game. He's going to have a hard time keeping up with scoring with Philly, I think.
Yeah, they only scored 19 last week against the so-so defense.
Shitty Dallas team, you know.
Yeah. So he'll need to score more against Philly.
Oh, absolutely.
But Hurts didn't ball out in his last game. He only had 118 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Because he's coming off injury too.
Yeah. So now, like I said, I stick to with Philly because I had the dream back in August, and I texted my friend Tyler, who's a Philly fan, and I said, Phillies are going. He went and put $500 on Philly that day.
Holy shit.
If Philly wins the Super Bowl, he's got 15,000 coming to him.
Oh, he better split that shit with you.
Because of my dream. And so, but yeah, so he put it down. So I'm going to go with that emotionally. But man, seeing Purdy, if he could win a Super Bowl and just ball out as Mr. Irrelevant, would just be the best story that football's had in a while, you know?
That and like, what does San Francisco do? Hypothetically,
I know
San Francisco goes to the Super Bowl. They win the Super Bowl with this rookie who they drafted last.
Yeah.
But they got one guy they paid a bunch of money to.
Oh yeah, traded up to get him at the #1 pick and all that.
And then trade up to get the other guy, because they gave a bunch of money to Garoppolo, and then they drafted this quarterback because Garoppolo wasn't all that.
Yeah, then Trey Lance is sitting there. He's supposed to be the next up. He gets hurt. Garoppolo gets hurt. So now what do you do with Garoppolo and Lance? Or does it say, hey, this is an offense anybody can run, so those two are worthless?
Right? I mean, let's be real, man. Trent Dilfer of all people has a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, but that's because that defense was like no other, man.
Well, but all he had to do was run a ball control offense. That's what he did. They won a Super Bowl like that.
But see, Purdy's not doing that. It's not ball control. Purdy's getting 250, 300 yards a game.
But yeah, he's throwing that ball down the field, and they got a good running game too. I mean, and their defense has been great.
Oh yeah. So you got Bosa and all them. So, but I'm still gonna go with Philly just because of my dream.
Okay.
So if I'm a prophet or not, we're gonna see. Now I didn't say they were gonna win the Super Bowl to my friend, so he bet the money on them winning. We should have just bet them on it going because that was my dream. They went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
But I see Cincinnati, Philly, and then man, I don't even know in that. I just see Burrow getting that ring, man. He's been amazing.
He's been really good, and they had a rough start to the year too.
Yeah.
I mean, Cincinnati, they sucked in the beginning.
Next year, I'd love to see Jacksonville and Detroit. That would be just the funniest thing, like to go Trevor Lawrence with what they had last year, and then they did that late season run this year. The Lions doing the late season run. So next year, I think those are going to be some tough teams to play because we both all have good draft picks coming up because we got number 5 pick. We have 5 picks in the top 45, I think, or 55 or 6.
Something like that. Yeah, we have 2 in the first round, I believe.
Yeah, we get LA. LA sucks. Who would have saw that coming? So we get their number 5 pick. Ours is like number 17. Then we got a couple second rounders and a couple. I mean, we're just gonna be able to get a little more depth. And so,
not that I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but the Lions will win the division next year. It's going to happen.
It looks like it. Like Minnesota chokes, and Green Bay's looks like their time is up. So unless they reload, they can reload, but they have no cap. That's the other thing about Green Bay.
Right, exactly. So
the Lions have like the second most cap room, and we just had a winning season, and we get all these draft picks early rounds. So
they're going to be fun to watch next year.
Our rookies balled out this year, like Malcolm Rodriguez, 6th round pick, just nuts. And then Aiden Hutchinson, and then James Houston. I mean, it's just, I think we're going to be a team that people don't want to play next year. But we have one of the hardest schedules. I don't know if you've seen it.
That's okay though. I think here's the thing, dude.
By the end of this year, we had one of the hardest schedules too. By the way, because we played all the teams that were in the playoffs. We played them
and beat them.
Most of them, or some of them.
Except Buffalo, the defense fucked us out of that game.
We should have won Buffalo. We should have beat Minnesota both times.
We should have beat
Philly. Yeah, and so I mean,
in all those games, the defense shit the bed.
Yeah, we did beat Jacksonville, and so
we smoked Jacksonville.
Yeah, I know.
We put up 41 against Jacksonville.
Yeah,
I mean, like it'll be cool to watch next season. I always get depressed this time of year because there's a little window because I'm not a basketball or a hockey guy, there's that pocket between the Super Bowl and when baseball starts where it's so boring. There's no sports to watch. There's no, it's a bummer.
Yeah. It's like, what do you do with your time? So luckily I've been so busy, I don't have to care.
I'll just make more podcasts. What are you
I'll just go hang out with President Trump.
I know you definitely, we're going to talk, we're going to
talk. What's funny is Mike Lindell from My Pillow. I talk with him now, like every week. It's just such a surreal world that I live in. Like, why am I talking to this guy? Like, but he actually cares about the cause. He's another one. If he gets a bad rap because the stuff he said about 2020 being stolen, but he actually cares about the cause. And so his cause is get rid of the machines, get the paper ballots. Doesn't care what party you are. If you win, it shouldn't be questioned. And so that's where we get back on all that. And so for me, I live a dope life. I do dope stuff,
I dig it. I dig what you're doing. Will, thanks you so much for doing this. It's been a long time coming. We've been talking about it forever.
All right. But we got an hour, 40 minutes in. So
I know, man. So that being said, let's finish up. Thank you. And much love. Y'all be good.
Appreciate you. Check out ArkansasVII.org and you'll see what we're doing with the machines.
Got it, man. Thank you so much.
All right.
Later.
See ya.